Today I want to talk about something that comes up again and again. It's usually why Kempo gets a negative reputation in the martial arts world. If you spend any time online, especially in today's era, you've probably seen the memes, the criticism, the comments, and honestly, some of it is actually understandable. But there's a lot more to that story, and I think we need to kind of discuss what's going on out there and maybe how Kempo can benefit from some of the modernity that we've now encountered. First things first is the internet has really changed the game here. One of the biggest reasons Kempo gets judged so harshly today is basically because of how martial arts are consumed. We've gone from an era of only having things in books and VHS or having an instructor on tap who would only feed you the information as needed, or as your belt required in some cases. Luckily, I wasn't one of those people. I had someone who was very open with the material as my instructor. But again, in those cases, one of those biggest reasons is the fact that there's so much information available to us on the internet nowadays, be that in short clips, 10-second snippets of techniques or how they're done, quick comparisons made by people where it's very easy to put side by sides. Lots of different things like that out there, and it's made it really easy to take a lot of these arts out of context, particularly when you're looking at things from a point in time. A form or a demonstration, especially one that's meant to like highlight ideas, and by form I mean kata, or pick your term based on your martial art. But a lot of these are demonstrations of concepts, ideas, principles, how a technique might work in an ideal circumstance, but it's for education purposes, not for fighting. It can look outdated when you compare it then to something like MMA training or a boxing highlight. These things are designed for pugilism. The training is there for fight camps or other things. But what people also miss is in the background of that, and if you take some of the Gracie videos that are out there, yeah, sure, there's like free rolling, there's all these different things that they do where they're pressure testing, never to full contact levels, because then you lose training partners and, well, insurance and all that other stuff. But again, there's a lot of pressure testing done in these systems, but when you really look at the core of it, they demo their techniques in the exact same way. Now, how it's put into practice then, be that through ideal training to make sure that you get your positions before your submissions, to really work on how things work, to what degree or angle of pressure needs to be put on a lock or whatever it might be. Those things happen. But what we're also looking at is they then take it and they do test it in a more of a flow or a free roll, sometimes slow, sometimes slightly hyper intensive. But again, always to a point of testing against someone who is not quite willing to submit to your technique after you've practiced it safely. So again, these are all things that have changed over time. Kempo is viewed through a lens of being outdated, being impractical, whatever it may be. Oftentimes, I think it's not that Kempo is actually outdated. I think the demonstrations of what we see are very much locked into a pattern of instruction and education. And perhaps we could benefit from installing some of the drills that are out there from other systems that have become more popular in modern terms. Of course, you can't do certain things. You can't poke someone's eye out. You can't do that in training. But there are ways to simulate that, and there are ways to effectively develop that skill set without maiming or breaking people up every time that you practice. So there's a lot to be learned from these modern systems. There's a lot to be learned from modern reality-based self-defense, or whatever you want to call it, whatever its term is now, personal protection. There's plenty out there. But again, in an era where immediate gratification is required, again, if it's not hooking a person in the first 2 seconds of a video or the first 30 seconds of a video, depending on the type of video, first impressions win. And people will always look and say, oh, well, that's not effective for the street. Again, your own biases when you view something. Why are you viewing a video? What lens are you viewing it through? That's another thing that we have there as well. So again, Kempo doesn't always translate to video as well as it should. It's got lots of layers, it's got forms, it's got sets, it's got techniques, it's got variations and principles. Need I go on? Again, when you film a technique in a clean demonstration format, it can look stiff, it can look choreographed, it can look like the other person is not responding to you and is just standing there after they've thrown their initial attack. And we know that's not true. We know that's not going to happen. But again, it's how we present the idea inside the technique. And that's what we're looking at here. Viewers can only really see that choreography. If you're a practitioner, you know what that technique is demoing. You know the potential to use those parts of those techniques, not the full technique, but the tools within it in situations where you have more of an opportunity to pressure test, free flow, whatever you want to call it. But again, when people only see the surface choreography, that's where, again, we lose the intent. We lose the interest of those looking at it, and we lose the confidence of those looking at it as well. So our book gets judged by its cover rather than its content, as usual. Now, it also goes without saying that, like all martial arts and all martial arts systems, quality control is a significant issue. Again, things like the availability of the internet, things like everybody has a camera in their pocket nowadays, and everybody can upload immediately from that camera to the World Wide Web, and basically that information is out there. Quality control is a significant issue. It is an issue with everything that we do. That's not to say you shouldn't put things out. I personally have an idea in my head, and this is a training ethos and a practice that myself and my training partners came along with, which was put it out, warts and all. Someone's probably going to say something mean on the internet regardless of what you do, regardless of what you say. However, there still needs to be a minimum standard of quality, that what you are doing is at least technically sound to the level of your ability, and that you're explaining what you're doing in a good way. So, there's a lot of stuff out there with people, waving fingers and waving hands, and people are falling down like they're being electrocuted. I'm not saying that is correct. What I am saying is what we are putting out there is a quality control issue. And that's a lot down to, variety from school to school, like everything, in education in general. There is variety and quality from school to school in the education system in whatever countries we're in. The size of the system, the lineage, the amount of splits, the differences in opinions, who was taught by Parker when and who got the real system. We have people saying from, the original version is 1987 and that's where it ends, and quite possibly so. Parker died shortly after that in the next 3 years or so. Again, we have people teaching what they learned back in the 60s. Is anyone else any different? No. Again, there are different interpretations. This is what I've learned. This is what I've internalized. People can have totally different experiences, and that's okay. It can influence their schools. Again, one might train hard, they might pressure test, they might spar, they might adapt the techniques to suit, and others might just work towards the belt system and do it as rote. And they will learn it, and they will basically memorize 156 techniques in the system. They will do all of the forms, all of the sets. They will do all of the self-defense basics that we have in the system as well. And they will not vary or deviate from that. And that's okay too. That is preserving an art, and that is preserving a system. Again, though, the quality of what we put out and the quality of what we show needs to be good. Online viewers don't know which is which. If we are propagating low quality information, if we are propagating bad quality demonstrations, poor quality demonstrations, everything represents that. If you saw a terrible BJJ and it was constantly in your face as opposed to high quality BJJ or Jiu-Jitsu or Aikido or anything, you will instantly say, this is rubbish. The whole thing is rubbish. So again, quality control, you can't really control every piece of information that's out there, but we all have to take our own responsibility for that as time goes on. So there's a lot more we could discuss on this topic, and again, it's not a criticism without its foundation. There are things we could definitely change. There are things out there that even I question as a long-term practitioner and 6th degree black belt in Kempo, and it's a discussion that I'm more than happy to have out there. So again, I welcome you to share your part of the story. What do you do that's different? Do you train the old way? Do you train exactly as the system is written? Do you have your own variations of drills that you've taken from other martial arts which help to kind of keep your Kempo alive and flowing and more reactive and spontaneous as it should be? So again, in the comments, come back to me. Let me know what you think. Give me some of your thoughts. Give me some of your feedback. And if you're new to the channel, please feel free to subscribe and follow along and interact, more importantly than anything else. And we'll see you in the next one.